Okay, let's dive in. Today we're unpacking quite a case, Ernst-Dieter Beck.
Right. A German serial killer. But the story,
Hmm.
it goes a bit deeper than just the crimes, doesn't it?
Exactly. We've got biographical stuff, crime reports, even some legal docs. And there's this one kind of surprising part of his trial we really want to focus on.
Yeah, our plan is to walk through what he did, the crimes, but then really zero in on this moment in German legal history connected to him.
Because it turns out his trial involved this scientific test, something pretty cutting edge for the time.
Absolutely. First time ever used in a German murder case, apparently.
So it's a real window into how the legal system was just starting to wrestle with, science and behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, so who was Ernst-Dieter Beck?
Well, the basics. Born 1940, died just a few years ago, 2018. He was 77. Died in Brandenburg Prison Hospital.
And he wasn't exactly new to the system when the murder started, right?
Oh, definitely not. His record, it shows convictions going way back. Theft, fraud, forgery, assault, even sexual assault. So he had history.
A significant history. Okay, so the murders we're looking at today, they span quite a few years.
They did from 61 to 68. The first one was April 8th, 1961.
And the victim?
A young woman, Ingrid K. She was only 23. She disappeared after a bachelor party, just on her way home.
That's awful. And they found her later.
Yes, tragically. She was found strangled in an old mill near Rum.
The investigation sounds like it was pretty massive for the early 60s.
It really was. I mean, the reports say police questioned all 84 party guests.
84, wow.
Yeah. And followed up, get this, over 1,000 different leads or tracks.
Incredible effort. I saw a note that for a while they even suspected her father.
They did, yeah, briefly. But that never really got resolved. He actually died before Beck was eventually arrested years down the line.
Right, okay. So let's move forward a bit. The second murder.
That was May 25th, 1965. The victim this time was Ursula F., an office worker, 29 years old.
And how did Beck encounter her?
It seems quite random. Met her in dance hall. She invited him back to her mother's apartment in Hereford. She was staying there alone at the time.
And he killed her there.
Yes. Strangled her in the apartment.
Yeah.
And managed to slip away completely unseen.
And she wasn't found immediately, which is just heartbreaking.
No, it took 10 days. Neighbors found her. Apparently, people thought she'd gone on a trip to the Netherlands specifically.
Ah, so the alarm wasn't raised right away.
Exactly. Which explains the delay.
Then there's a third murder.
Yes. February 28th, 1968. This victim was Annalise H., a store clerk. Younger, just 21.
And she was found much quicker.
Almost immediately, yeah. The very next day. A driver spotted her body in a creek, also near Hereford.
So 3 murders over about 7 years. How did the police finally connect them all to Beck? What was the breakthrough?
Well, it happened right after that third murder. He was arrested March 1st, 1968. But the key wasn't from the latest crime scene. It was a fingerprint found back at the second victim's apartment, Ursula F.'s place. That's what linked him.
Wow. A detail from years earlier cracks the case. Did he confess right away?
No, initially he denied it all. The confession actually came later, during a psychiatric examination.
Where was that?
At a state psychiatric hospital in Marsburg. That's where he finally admitted to the killings in the area.
Okay. So he's arrested. He confesses. Now we get to this really unique part of the trial you mentioned.
Exactly. This is where it gets historically significant. His defense lawyer, a guy named Schlitter, made a really unusual request.
Which was?
He asked for a cytogenic report, basically a chromosome test for Beck. He cited special circumstances related to Beck.
A chromosome test in 1968. That sounds way ahead of its time. What was the thinking there?
Well, it taps into this idea that was circulating in sort of forensic psychiatry circles back then.
Okay.
There was this theory, the XYY chromosome theory. The idea was that males with an extra Y chromosome, so XYY instead of the normal XY, might be, predisposed to violence.
Huh. I've vaguely heard of that.
Right. And apparently this wasn't just theoretical. Defense lawyers in the U.S. and France had already tried using XYY results to argue for, like, mitigation, less culpability.
So Beck's lawyer was trying to suggest maybe a genetic abnormality played a role in his actions. To lessen the sentence, maybe?
That seems to be the strategy, yes.
Oh.
Requesting the test certainly points that way, and that's the big deal here.
Because,
according to the sources, this was the absolute first time in German legal history that an accused murderer underwent this specific kind of genetic testing as part of the court proceedings.
the very first time. And the court, they actually went for it. Allowed this brand new kind of test.
They did. The director of the Bielefeld District Court approved the request. And interestingly, the prosecutor's office didn't object either.
So who performed the test?
It was done by the Institute of Human Genetics at the University of Marburg, a proper scientific institute.
Okay, the big question then. What did the test show? Did he have the XYY chromosome set up?
No. The results came back clear. The report stated Beck had the standard XY chromosome combination. No sign of the XYY variation.
So that potential line of defense just evaporated.
Pretty much. He couldn't argue for mitigation based on that specific genetic theory anyway because the test showed he didn't have the XYY pattern.
Right. So after everything, the investigation, the fingerprint, the confession, this whole chromosome test saga, what happened in the end? What was the sentence?
The sentencing was on November 4th, 1968. Ernst-Dieter Beck received 3 life sentences, one for each murder.
3 life sentences. And he served that for decades, didn't he?
He did. He spent the rest of his life in prison, mostly a world prison, until he died in 2018.
It's really quite a story. You have the awful crimes, the police work, and then this completely unexpected detour into, well, early forensic genetics in a German courtroom.
It really highlights that moment, doesn't it? The late 60s, the legal system is starting to grapple with these new scientific ideas about what makes people tick, potentially biological factors.
Yeah. Science and the law starting that complicated relationship.
A very complex dance, yeah.
Yeah.
Still ongoing today, of course.
Absolutely. And thinking about it, that attempt back in 1968 to use a chromosome test, it really makes you think about the questions we still wrestle with.
For sure. Like, how do we understand the mix of factors behind criminal behavior? Genetics, environment, upbringing, choice. It's so incredibly complex.
Right. And what role should science, as it keeps evolving, actually play in the justice system? It's a huge question.
Definitely. A conversation that cases like Beck's helps start, maybe, and one that's certainly not finished.